Today I'm going to share with you my labor and delivery story, and it might be kind of lengthy video, but oh well. I know lots of people wanted to see this video, and I also wanted to film this video to go along with all the pregnancy videos that I've done. So to get started, I've made a ton of notes, so I am looking down at the paper of notes that I have, and we were scheduled to go in to be induced Monday, February the 24th, and be there at 5:30. So we got to the hospital at 5:30, and we had to basically do registration and all that. Like, it was unnecessary to pre-register because we wasn't having a C-section, so I didn't get to pre-register. So I had to register when we got to the hospital and everything. We got our bands on and all that stuff. We went up to labor and delivery, and basically, got admitted. And by the time that they had took all my information and all that stuff, it was 6 something in the morning when I was getting ready to be hooked up to the Pitocin. But before they hooked me up to the Pitocin, oh, and first let me say, the delivery room was a very big room. It had a jacuzzi tub in it. It had all these really bright lights, for when you're getting ready to push the baby out. And there was a TV, couch, bed, obviously, and normal hospital room, except for you had a ton of lights above you and the jacuzzi tub. And you can use the jacuzzi tub at any point that you'd like during the labor process. It's not there for you to have your baby in water or anything, obviously. But so around really close to 7 a.m. I was getting ready to be hooked up. I was getting, my IVs and stuff. And the doctor come in, and she said that we were going to break my water. So she actually broke my water before I even started the Pitocin. And it was pretty much instantly after my water was broke and the Pitocin did actually get started. It was pretty quickly that I started feeling contractions, and at first it was like a menstrual cramp, and it was bearable at first. And by the time as of course, they progressively get worse. And the Pitocin, what they do is they keep giving you doses of it until it's basically like a false labor. But I was in active labor because my water had been broke. But they keep giving it to you until they can regulate your contractions enough that you can have the baby, and it makes you dilate. So I was already dilated to a 3. So I did not need an overnight stay in the hospital to get a balloon inserted into my cervix to make it ripen and open, soften. So I got lucky there. And so within the first hour of my water being broken, the Pitocin started, I had dilated to a 4. And I ended up, I think, I stayed at 4 for a really long time. And so the contractions were getting a lot worse. They were getting closer together. They pretty much started off being about 2 to 3 minutes apart. So I decided that I wanted to get in the jacuzzi bath, and the nurse had said that if you're having back labor, it usually helps, but if you're not, then it usually doesn't do much for you, or it can make it worse. Well, when I got in the bath, it definitely made mine worse. I was not having back labor. I can only remember one contraction that I really can deem as that was in my back, and it come from my back and all the way around up front in my stomach. And it was very painful. Of course, all the contractions were very painful, and they kept getting worse. So the bath actually didn't work for me. It just made my contractions worse. I could barely get out of the tub. They just hurt so badly. And I had then decided, after a little while after that, she had told me that, I could get some meds through my IV, and they would help knock off the pain a little bit. But it wouldn't take it completely away like an epidural would or a spinal block. So I decided to get those, and I got those meds. And at the time I was watching White Chicks and on the television, and my my nanny was there, my mom was there, my sister was there, her little boy was there, and John was there, of course. But our plan was that John would go back, periodically and check on our dogs and let them out to go to the restroom and make sure they're fed and watered, things like that. So when I got that medication, it did relax me. It made me super drowsy, so I was just laying in bed not talking to anyone. And my nanny thought, well, because she's not talking and she's just laying there she's fine, but really I was in excruciating pain. I was really worried about, scaring my sister's 2-year-old child, because it just got really, really painful. And like I said, they were just coming on top of each other by then, and this is several hours, hours in labor now. And the I felt like I was getting no break in between contractions. But at that point, when I took that medication through the IV, I decided, okay, well, John can go home now. I'm fine for now. So he left, and that medication wore off. And they had told me if I wanted the epidural, that it would take about an hour to actually put in for it, and then by the time they get up there, so you're looking at an hour 30 minutes wait for your epidural. And so my nanny kept saying, if you're in pain, you need to just put in for it, because by the time it gets here, by the time they get up there to do it, you're going to be in a lot of pain. And so I decided that I wanted it, and so I told the nurse that I wanted the epidural, and luckily the guy actually that does it was still on the floor. He had just done an emergency C-section, and he was still there, so I got it fairly quickly after that. And right when I was getting ready to get my epidural, I was so scared. I thought, well, because I'm so big, plus size, I was like, they're not going to be able to get in my spine, and all these crazy thoughts, I'm going to be paralyzed, and just, it's a scary thing, they're digging in your spine with needles. And so when he come in to do it, I was actually bent over the side of the bed, and then John come back, and he said, well, I can't leave. Every time I leave, something happens. So I end up getting the epidural. That in itself was painful, because when you get epidural, you are not numbed or anything like that, and you're bent over the side of your bed, and they tell you to hold really still, and you cannot move at all, and you have to be super still. And of course you're still having contractions during this time, and they're very painful. By the time that I had said that I wanted my epidural, I even said at one point to my nanny, I was like, I'm going to rip this bed apart if I don't get some relief. And so that was really close to, it was 2 o'clock something, close to about 3 o'clock, I would say, when I actually did get the epidural. And I'd been in labor since 6 something a.m. that morning. It was probably about 6:45 or something. I meant to write down times and everything, but when you're going through this process, you just kind of go through it, and you're not taking notes the entire time. I wanted to do that, but I ended up not doing it. And See, and the Pitocin, you know, can either speed you up in your dilation process or kind of slow it down. And an epidural can do the same thing. Well, I was at a 4 all day long, showing no signs of progression. I think it was because I was fighting the contractions also. I mean, they tell you not to do that, but I was obviously fighting them, you know, aware that I was getting ready to have another one, and they were painful. So, I got the epidural, and the guy was like, you just have to grin and bear it, you know. If you're having contractions, you just have to stay really still. John and the nurse ended up having to, you know, hold my shoulders and stuff down. It was so painful. By then, the contractions were about 30 seconds apart because of the Pitocin. They kept opening it and opening and opening it, so the contractions would regulate. But they were just on top of each other. You could even see it on the monitor. It would be like a mountain, a mountain, a mountain. You know, they were just on top of each other. There was no break. So it was hard for me to sit still during the epidural, but I did, and I got it, and it took about 5 minutes or so for it to kick in. And also, the guy who administers the epidural there at the hospital actually does an epidural, half spinal block, and it makes it last a lot longer. And I also was trying to wait as long as I could for the epidural if I had to have it, because I was afraid it would wear off by the time I had the baby, because you don't really know how your body personally is going to progress. So I was at a 4, and then right after I got the epidural, it was time to be checked again. And after they checked my cervix again, I had went from the 4 to a 5, and then about no time after that, a little bit after that, the nurse had come in and looked at the monitor and then decided to check me again. And I had went from the 5 straight to a 9 in no time. By then, you know, she had already come in and she had already called the doctor and everything. So basically, I don't know how it is with other people in their areas, but this area, whoever is the doctor that's on call catches the baby. And I really wanted a woman doctor. And I wanted the doctor that I had been seeing most of my entire pregnancy. But she was not on call. She was on call the week prior to me having the baby. So she had told me that this one doctor was on call, and I'd seen this man a couple times. And then it ended up actually being a woman on call that day. I guess something had happened. And she is my doctor's best friend, and they delivered each other's babies. So that's kind of neat. And so my mom and stuff was out of pocket, and they were getting people out of the room that wasn't going to be in the delivery room. They broke down my bed really quick. All these bright lights were on. They'd already come in and done their prep work, and they got the stuff down, the little isolate for the baby, and the little weight station, and all that stuff ready to go. And finally, my mom made it back upstairs. They had went to go eat and stuff. The same thing happened to my cousin too. Like, she was at a 5 forever, and then she went straight to a 10, and even her boyfriend was out of pocket. He went to go eat, which is exactly what was happened with my mom. Like, she went to go eat because everybody was like, oh, well, no time. And the doctor had said earlier on in the day, she said, we're going to have a baby today. And she I said, well, you know, I made some comment about time or something, and she said, I look for you to have this baby around 5 o'clock. But don't quote me on it, you know. And I was like, oh, okay. And so after I got the epidural, went straight to a 9. They come in, and it was time, and the doctor come in, and she said, we're going to have a baby. And I was like, what? And the nurse said, yeah, we're getting ready to push. And I said, really? And because it just happened so fast right after the epidural. And she said, yeah, don't you feel the pressure? And I was like, no, I don't feel anything. And I hadn't had the epidural that long, so it was very, very numb, and I couldn't even feel the pressure to need to push. And I'm not aware that if my body was even pushing and itself. But at the time also before that, they had checked me and the baby still hadn't dropped. So I had to be elevated in the bed, and basically you sit Indian style and pull your heels of your feet, like basically your feet as far into your pelvic area as you possibly can, and you sit up and it forces the baby to drop. So the baby dropped and I was ready to push. So we started to push. I couldn't hold my legs at all, except with John and my mom had to physically get my legs and hand them to me so I could hold my legs and bear down. And she said, basically, you bear down like you're having a bowel movement, and when you get it right, I will let you know. And so I did like 2 pushes, and she was like, that's it. So I just went with it, and I told everyone, like, I know lots of people talk about as if they're scared to deliver that baby. I was scared of the labor part, not the delivery part, because to me the delivery part is the final stretch. It's the final countdown. It's the finish line. You're done after you have your baby. And so I was excited to that we were to that point, and I was glad to get it over with. And so basically what I did was I just I bared down to push, and we pushed through maybe, I don't know, about, I think John said maybe like 9 contractions or something, but they were so close together, and it basically took me about 15 minutes altogether to deliver the baby. And especially towards the end, like when you do the final pushes and they tell you just to keep on, like I was just holding my breath and kept on until he was there. Like, and he came out with like a round head and everything, because he didn't sit in my birth canal. I told everybody that it was go time, and I knew that, and I was determined to get my child here. So yeah, so about 15 minutes, and the baby was born at 4:33 p.m. and after I got I did have some stitches. I did tear a little, and she said it was a 1st degree like tear, and I had the bare minimum of stitches. Basically it's just a strip of stitches, and depending on how severe you tore, this line of stitches gets bigger, but she said mine was like the bare minimum. So I had very few stitches. She couldn't tell me exactly how many, but I did tear a little. And so I got stitched up and everything, and so from the time that I'd pushed the baby out, got stitched up, it only been like 30 minutes. And my nanny and them thought, oh, well, it's going to be, a while and stuff. They were all out in the waiting room waiting, and then they got brought back, and they were like, wow, I couldn't believe that it was just that quick, And yeah, so and we have a baby. And it was a crazy experience. I would do it all over again for him. But honestly, I'm not in any hurry to do it anytime soon again to have another one. It was a very painful experience. And so all in all, also, I labored for labor and delivery altogether close to 11 hours, and I was really proud of myself about the epidural. The nurse was saying most people get their epidurals when their contractions peak at about 100, and she said that my contractions were peaking at 236, and that's around the time that I ended up getting my epidural. So I was really proud of myself. I didn't get my epidural until I was right before I was getting ready to deliver, but the epidural did work in my favor to speed up the process and help me dilate, because my body was finally able to relax. And I'm really thankful for that. And if I had to do this pregnancy over again, this labor delivery over again, the change I would make I would get the epidural so much quicker. Like, basically when I got there and got hooked up and everything, I could have had it right then and there, because I was already at a 3. And I was close to a 4, but so I could have had the epidural then, and I may have if I had it to do over and if I knew what I knew now, I probably would have done that. So it's just, you know, it was crazy. And so, I mean, I have to be proud. Like, I dealt with my labor very decent. Like, I didn't take any, like, Lamaze classes or breathing classes or whatever either. I just did try to stay calm and breathe through my contractions and stuff like that. That I had watched some videos on YouTube and read a lot about breathing techniques, and so I just tried to push through as long as I could. And I had the epidural about, you know, an hour or so, a little over an hour before I actually gave birth. So I'm proud of myself, even though it did help speed up the process and get the baby here quicker. But I'm very happy with how long I was actually able to wait. And it just feels awesome to give birth and just be done and over with all of that painful experience. But it's so worth it. And now I'm gonna go get baby bear and show him to you. He was born at 4:33 p.m. on February the 24th of 2014. He's 6 pounds 3 ounces, and he was 19 inches long. And today he is right at 6 weeks old. So it's crazy. And I'm glad I could share my story with you, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's Connor. He, like I said, is right at 6 weeks old now. And he is so adorable. He's such a blessing. And I can imagine my life without him. And it's so funny. Can you see his little fuzzy head? He's so cute, aren't you? He's so cute. I don't know if you can see. But I love him. And like I said, I would do it all over again for Connor. And yeah, so I'll be doing another update soon on Connor because he has a doctor's appointment on Monday. And there are a few other things that I want to talk about. And baby's getting fussy. So thank you guys for watching. And don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe if you haven't already.